Over 100 years ago, an 11-year-old boy left his drink on a porch during a cold night. The glass was filled with powdered soda dissolved in water and a stirring stick to mix it up. 20 years later, Frank Epperson, that very forgetful boy, presented his accidental invention, the Popsicle, in a California park. There's no record of the original Popsicle flavor, but among the very first were cherry, the most popular one, lemon, orange, banana, watermelon, grape, and even root beer. Chocolate chip cookies are somewhat younger than popsicles, having been invented in the 1930s. Ruth Wakefield, the owner of a popular restaurant named the Toll House Inn, is considered to be the inventor of these scrumptious cookies. There are various stories behind this invention. One story claims that Ruth ran out of baker's chocolate and decided to replace it with some basic semi-sweet chocolate, expecting it would melt completely, but it didn't. Another story says some chocolate just accidentally fell into the batter. Ruth denied the accidental origin of her cookies, claiming that it was all done deliberately. There are many legends behind the creation of the potato chip. One claims they were invented in 1853 by a chef at a luxurious New York restaurant. French fries were one of the specials at this restaurant, and people seemed to love them. But there was one customer who wasn't satisfied with the quality, complaining they were too thick. When the chef, George Crumb, not crummy at all, cooked thinner French fries, the picky customer complained again. George deliberately made his next batch of fries paper thin. These fries were so thin, it was impossible to eat them with cutlery. Surprisingly, the finicky eater loved the dish. The chips recipe spread, and within a few decades, potato chips could be found in all the American grocery stores, turning from a hot dish to a fast snack. Worcestershire sauce is another product that wasn't invented deliberately. Two English chemists, John Willie Lee and William Henry Perrins, simply forgot about some barrels in the pharmacy basement for a couple of years. The first mixture they had made was totally inedible due to super strong flavor. But when they forgot some barrel of the mixture in the basement, it became fermented. When the chemists rediscovered the barrels and were curious to try it, they found that the taste had mellowed. This condiment is now used to intensify even those dishes that originally didn't have it. For example, chili con carne. Worcestershire sauce is part of the fifth flavor, umami, or savoriness, which explains its rich taste. Tofu, or bean curd, was invented centuries ago. One of its origin theories is that tofu was first created by a Chinese prince. Another theory claims that tofu appeared as a result of mixing boiled ground beans and sea salt. The salt was quite impure and probably contained calcium and magnesium. These ingredients let the bean mixture produce its curd-like consistency. One more legend says that some nigiri, a sort of evaporated sea salt, was accidentally dropped into soy milk. Today, doctors tell you to stay away from Coca-Cola, but it was surprisingly invented by John Pemberton, who had a medical degree and was a pharmacist. Pemberton's French wine coca was initially used as a remedy for severe pains, headache, and as a nerve tonic. In 1886, a prohibition law was introduced, and John had to change the recipe to remove the alcohol. One thing was left unchanged though, the cola nut that gave the drink its trademark flavor. Some legends say that John only accidentally added carbonated water to the new recipe, but in fact, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. Pemberton thought bubbles were a savory alternative to alcohol. John's Cola is definitely the Coke precursor, but today's drink differs from the original Pemberton's recipe. The sandwich was invented by accident too. Back in the 1700s, John Montagu, the 4th Earl of Sandwich, ordered his valet to make him a simple dish that could be eaten with no cutlery at all. He asked the valet to tuck some meat in between 2 loaves of bread. Lord Sandwich was particularly addicted to playing cards, and this dish let him eat without stopping the game. The cards didn't get greasy either. People started asking to bring the same as sandwich to their games, and soon the dish had its common name. The tomato ketchup we eat today is such a modified version that it actually has nothing to do with original ketchup recipe. You can trace its roots back to the 17th century, when the Chinese mixed pickled fish and spices, calling it a word that sounded a bit like ketchup, and which meant the brine of pickled fish. The English first tried this sauce about 100 years later. The British version featured mushrooms, shallots, and even walnuts. Later, the word ketchup changed its meaning and could be used for any dark-colored sauce. The first tomato ketchup had anchovies among its ingredients, which hints back to its relation to the Chinese fish sauce. Nachos aren't some ancient Mexican food. They were invented less than 100 years ago. Ignacio Anaya, nicknamed Nacho, is said to have invented this dish in the 1940s. Ignacio was a chef, and one day a regular customer asked if Ignacio could bring her and her 3 friends something different as a snack. He saw how hungry the ladies were and decided to cook something quick for them. He had to improvise using available ingredients. So, he grabbed some fried tortillas, grated loads of cheese on top of them, and heated the dish from above. To make the dish more savory, he added some jalapeno peppers on top. The very regular customer asked the name of the unusual snack. Ignacio didn't think long and said, "Nachos Special." Cheese puffs used to be a waste product in the 1930s. Edward Wilson noticed some oozing corn in one of the machines at a factory that produced flake food for animals. Those ribbons seemed interesting, so Edward decided to take them home and try to season them. He also noticed that the puffy corn hardened if it was exposed to air. The experiment turned out to be a success, so it was later developed into a world-famous snack. Now, instant noodles weren't invented by mistake, but there were several mistakes while inventing them. The main idea was to create something with a long shelf life. After several unsuccessful attempts, Momofuku Ando invented the method of preserving the noodles. They were processed in various ways, like steamed, dehydrated, fried in hot oil, and seasoned. And instant noodles used to be a luxury product, since they cost way more than the fresh noodles everyone was used to. Another product that was invented unwittingly is yogurt. It first appeared in Central Asia thousands of years ago. Some herders stored milk in a place with an abundance of bacteria without knowing it. The milk was fermented, and it resulted in a thicker texture and flavor change. One of the herders wasn't scared of that kind of dish and tried it. Nothing bad happened to him, so other people started eating it too. Today, pink lemonade has that nice color because of grape juice or added colorants. But there are 2 legends of how it was invented, and both feature circus workers. The first story alleges that Henry Allott, who worked in a circus, unwittingly dropped a few red cinnamon candies in the lemonade, which gave it that vibrant pink color. The other story is gross. It claims that circus worker Pete Conklin one day ran out of water for lemonade and instead used the water from the tub where one of his colleagues had washed her red stockings. The color of the pants turned the water pink. Pete added some sugar, slices of lemon, and acid. He called it strawberry lemonade. The customers liked it a lot, and his sales doubled. Yes, the people were panting for the stuff. The Tarte Tatin, which is a caramelized upside-down version of an apple pie, was cooked for the very first time by mistake. 2 sisters, Stephanie and Carolyn Tatin, ran a hotel in the 1800s. One day, Stephanie wanted to cook a simple apple pie, but she stewed the apples in butter for too long. To conceal her mistake, she put the crust on top of the apples and put it in the oven. When she took the pie out of the oven, she noticed several burn marks. It was a bad cooking day. She didn't want the guests to notice, so she flipped the pie over and presented it as a brand new recipe. Surprisingly, the guests just loved the pie, which soon became their signature dessert. Okay, gotta go. I'm really hungry.